The house was full of laughter, plates clinking, and the smell of roasted chicken. Ariyuki sat in the corner of the room, quietly helping to pass drinks to her siblings. Everyone seemed unusually excited today. Her elder brother, Tofunmi, pulled out his phone and started showing pictures of a beach resort. "Imagine the sunsets in Seychelles," he grinned. Her sister squealed, "I already packed my bikinis." Ariyuki looked up, confused. "Wait, you guys are going to Seychelles?" They all went quiet for a moment. Then Tofunmi chuckled awkwardly. "Yeah, it's just something small. Family trip." Ariyuki blinked, her voice small. "All of you?" Her heart thudded. Her parents, seated at the far end of the table, didn't meet her eyes. Her sister mumbled something under her breath and laughed. Then, loud enough for Ariyuki to hear, she said, "Well, she would have just stayed in the room and read books the whole time. Talk about ruining the vibe." Her other siblings burst into laughter. Ariyuki's throat tightened. She looked toward her parents, silently begging them to speak up. Her father cleared his throat but said nothing. Her mother finally looked at her, not with regret or shame, but with cold finality. "Ariyuki, it's best you stay back this time. You need the rest." Ariyuki forced a small nod and smiled slightly, but inside, something shattered. She sat there, frozen, pretending she was okay, pretending she understood. But she didn't. She had never missed a family vacation before, never done anything wrong. In fact, she was always the one helping everyone. Quiet, respectful, never a burden. And now, they were all going without her, planning in front of her like she didn't even exist. As her siblings continued to laugh and talk over one another about beach games and boat rides, Ariyuki quietly stood up and walked into the kitchen. Her hands trembled as she poured herself a glass of water. She stared at her reflection in the shiny kettle. Tired eyes, polite smile, no voice. Later that night, she heard them talking in the living room. Her name came up again. "She's too dull, Mum. She'd just complain the whole time," one sibling said. "We're finally doing something fun. Don't ruin it with guilt," said another. Ariyuki clutched her bedsheet tight and turned her face to the wall. She didn't cry. The tears didn't even come. She just felt hollow. In the family group chat, plans continued. Pictures of airplane tickets, beach outfits, excitement. But her name was never mentioned once. It was like she didn't exist. And for the first time, Ariyuki believed it. Maybe she really was too quiet to matter. Or maybe they just never saw who she truly was. Either way, the message was loud and clear. She wasn't wanted. Ariyuki sat alone at the kitchen table, slowly eating a plate of rice that had gone cold. In the next room, the sound of zippers, chatter, and laughter echoed through the house as her family packed their bags for Seychelles. Her spoon clinked against the plate, the only noise in her corner of the house. She opened her phone and scrolled through Instagram. Her sister had posted a boomerang video throwing sunglasses into a suitcase. The caption read, "Seychelles, here we come. Family fun loading." Ariyuki stared at it for a moment, then quietly locked her phone. She had grown up in the same house, under the same roof, but it never truly felt like home. From a young age, she was different. Calm, observant, quiet. While her siblings ran around breaking vases and shouting at each other, Ariyuki sat in the corner with a storybook. Her mother would often sigh and say, "This one's too soft. She won't survive in this world." They all thought it was harmless, just a joke, but it left marks. At school, Ariyuki excelled, always at the top of her class. When she graduated with honors, she brought her certificate home, eyes glowing with pride. Her father barely looked at it. "Tofunmi got promoted at his job," he said with a smile. That evening, they threw a small party for Tofunmi. Every milestone in her life was met with silence. No celebration, no praise, just passing comments like, "That's what you're supposed to do, isn't it?" But when her siblings did half as much, The whole house lit up. Ariyuki learned early not to expect anything. She poured her energy into her work, building a quiet but solid career in tech consulting. Her boss valued her, her colleagues respected her, but when she came home, she became a shadow again. She wasn't funny enough, loud enough, or stylish enough. She was just there. That night, as her family packed joyfully, her sister ran into the kitchen to grab sunscreen and paused when she saw Ariyuki. "You're not mad, are you? You're always so serious," she said with a half smile. Ariyuki just shook her head, saying nothing. Her sister left, and the noise returned. Alone again, Ariyuki stared at the wall, the silence louder than the laughter. The wound wasn't just about being left out of a vacation, it was about a lifetime of being unseen. Of being the daughter who followed the rules, who never asked for anything, and yet was treated like she never gave enough. Her heart was tired, but her spirit, quietly, began to stir. Something inside her was changing, and this time she wasn't going to let the pain go to waste. The morning after the family's packing chaos, Ariyuki woke up with a heavy heart. The house was quieter now. Most of the luggage was already in the car, and soon they'd all be gone. She sat on her bed, scrolling through job emails and trying to distract herself from the sadness. Just then, her phone rang. It was an unknown international number. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello." A deep, calm voice spoke on the other end. "Hello, is this Miss Ariyuki Ogunle?" she confirmed, surprised. "This is Adewale Ofori. We met briefly at the Lagos Women in Tech seminar 3 months ago. I've had your pitch on my mind ever since." Ariyuki sat up straight, confused but intrigued. "Your ideas were sharp, quiet confidence, rare to find," he continued. "I'm leading a delegation to a leadership conference in Dubai next week. I want you on the team." Ariyuki blinked. "Me?" she asked softly. "Yes, you," he said firmly. "We've arranged full sponsorship. Business class ticket. 5-star accommodation. This is the kind of room where real deals happen. You deserve to be there." For a moment, she didn't know what to say. All her life, she had waited for someone to see her, really see her. And now, a man who barely knew her, remembered her ideas over all the louder voices. She thanked him politely, her voice still unsure. "Take a few hours to think," he added, "but I believe in investing in people who don't shout to be heard." After the call ended, Ariyuki sat in stunned silence. Her chest was tight with emotion. She opened her laptop and looked up the event. It was real. Big names, powerful women, decision makers, and Mr. Ofori wanted her there. She stood up and walked to the living room. Her family was gone now. The silence felt different this time. Not empty, but freeing. She called back. "Sir, I'd be honored to join the delegation." His voice was warm. "Excellent. Welcome to a new chapter, Ariyuki." Hours later, her confirmation email arrived. So did her e-ticket, business class, Lagos to Dubai. She stared at it for a long time, heart racing. She packed slowly, neatly. No one in the house knew she was leaving too. But this time, it wasn't about revenge or proving anything. It was about stepping into the space that had always been waiting for her. For once, someone had opened a door, and this time, she was walking through it. As the plane landed in Dubai, Ariyuki looked out the window with wide eyes. Everything felt new. The lights, the energy, the feeling of being somewhere far from everything that once made her feel small. At the airport, a driver held a card with her name on it. He greeted her with respect, something she wasn't used to. At the hotel, she was welcomed like a guest of honor. The room was elegant, the view stunning. It was nothing like her quiet corner back home. The next morning, she dressed carefully in a stylish but simple suit. It wasn't loud or flashy, just like her. But for the first time, she felt like she belonged in it. She walked into the conference hall filled with women from across Africa, CEOs, tech founders, investors, thinkers. At first, she stayed near the back, just observing. Then, Mr. Ofori arrived, smiling warmly. "Come," he said. "You're not here to hide." He introduced her to a small group of powerful women. "This is Ariyike," he said proudly. "Brilliant mind. Watch her." They welcomed her without judgment. They asked about her ideas, listened when she spoke. One CEO from Kenya said, "You're calm, but your words carry weight." Ariyike felt seen, not for her energy, but for her essence. Over the next few days, something inside her shifted. She started raising her hand in panels. She gave short, clear opinions during group discussions. She shared a quiet story about developing digital tools for rural communities, and the room applauded. She wasn't loud, but her message stuck. Women came up to her afterwards saying, "Thank you. You speak how I feel." In the evenings, she networked over dinner, sipping fruit cocktails and exchanging contacts. One night, a famous investor from South Africa told her, "The way you explained your project, that's leadership. Never shrink it." Those words stayed with her. Each moment added strength to her voice. Each connection helped her stand taller. Meanwhile, her phone buzzed with social media updates. Her family was flooding their pages with vacation photos, laughing in pools, dancing on yachts, sipping drinks under palm trees. They had no idea she was also abroad, not for fun, but for purpose. She looked at their photos once, then put her phone away. There was no pain in her chest this time. She didn't need their validation anymore. In Dubai, she was not the quiet one left behind. She was the woman who had finally stepped into her light. For the first time, Ariyike wasn't surviving in silence. She was growing, blooming, and she was just getting started. The Lagos airport was buzzing with movement as travelers wheeled their bags and searched for rides. Ariyike stepped off the plane in a tailored navy blue jumpsuit, her hair neatly braided, her posture calm and confident. She held her passport and conference folder in one hand, a small designer carry-on in the other. She wasn't the same girl who had once sat alone at a family dinner, aching to be noticed. As she walked toward the arrivals lounge, Mr. Ofori's assistant met her with a bright smile. "Welcome back, Ms. Ariyike. Mr. Ofori asked us to ensure you get home safely." Two other event staff joined them, carrying gifts and awards she had received at the conference. Ariyike nodded graciously, walking in the center of the small team like someone who was used to being valued. Then she heard a familiar voice. "Ariyike?" She turned and froze. Just a few steps ahead, her entire family was standing together at the baggage claim area. Her mother, father, and siblings had just returned from Seychelles, dressed in beach clothes and dragging souvenir-filled bags. Their smiles faded as their eyes fell on her surrounded by assistants. Her sister stepped forward, eyebrows raised. "Wait, what are you doing here? And who are all these people?" Ariyike took a slow breath, then smiled calmly. "Colleagues," she said simply. Her voice was clear, steady. Her father looked confused. Her brother blinked. "Colleagues," he echoed. Just then, Mr. Ofori himself appeared, walking over from the VIP lounge. He spotted Ariyike and broke into a warm smile. "There she is, our rising African tech star," he said proudly, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "You represented us with excellence. The delegation couldn't have asked for better." Her family stood frozen, eyes wide. Mr. Ofori then turned to her and added, "By the way, the regional director from Nairobi asked for your contact. Don't forget to follow up." Ariyike nodded, replying with a quiet confidence. "Of course, sir. Thank you for everything." He gave her a respectful nod and walked off. The staff followed him, leaving Ariyike standing before her stunned family. No one said anything for a moment. Her sister finally whispered, "You were in Dubai?" "Yes," Ariyike answered. "For work." Her mother opened her mouth, then closed it. Her father looked at her, like he was seeing her for the first time. The silence between them was heavy, but not for Ariyike. She gave them one last small smile, then turned to leave with her assistant leading the way. She didn't owe them an explanation, not anymore. Back at home, the atmosphere had changed, but no one wanted to admit it. The Ogunlai house was quieter, but not in a peaceful way. Everyone moved carefully around Ariyike, unsure of what to say or how to act. Her siblings, who used to laugh at her silence, now made awkward jokes. "Madam Dubai," her brother Tofunmi said one evening, smirking. "You go fly business class now. You no fit wash plate again." He tried to laugh, but it didn't land. Ariyiki simply smiled and walked past him. Their teasing had changed. It wasn't playful, it was nervous. Her presence unsettled them now. She hadn't become louder or aggressive, she was just sure of herself. And that confidence shook them more than any words could. Their father barely spoke to her. He often sat in the living room watching TV, pretending she wasn't there. He didn't ask about the conference, didn't mention her sudden rise. But sometimes, Ariyiki caught him staring at her with a distant look, as if he couldn't believe she was the same girl he had once ignored. Her mother tried the hardest to act normal. "I hope you ate," she would say casually. "There's stew in the pot." But her eyes gave her away. There was something else in them now, a flicker of pride mixed with guilt and confusion. She no longer called Ariyike too soft. Now she avoided any label at all. Then one afternoon, a car pulled up outside their house. A well-dressed journalist and a photographer stepped out, holding cameras and notebooks. They had come to interview Ariyike for a feature in a major African tech magazine. The moment the family saw the visitors, everything shifted again. Her siblings suddenly became helpful. Her sister offered to do Ariyiki's makeup. Tofunmi suggested they take group photos to show family support. Even her father, usually silent, put on his best shirt and stood by the door, pretending to welcome the guests. Her mother brought out drinks, smiling proudly like she had always been supportive. As the journalist asked questions, the family hovered nearby, throwing in comments like, "We always knew she'd do something big," and "She's always been a genius, just quiet about it." Ariyiki smiled politely, but said nothing. She let them talk, knowing the truth in her heart. They hadn't believed in her. They had simply never looked deep enough. After the guests left, her mother patted her shoulder. "You did well today." Ariyike nodded, but inside, she understood something important. Their sudden interest wasn't love. It was the need to stand near the light now that it was shining. She had spent years being invisible. Now that they could finally see her, she realized she didn't need their approval anymore. The world had seen her, and more importantly, she had seen herself. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops, casting soft orange light through the windows, Ariyiki sat at the dining table. Her family was gathered around, scrolling on their phones or watching TV. She looked at them quietly for a moment, then spoke. "I want to say something." The room fell silent. Her mother turned down the TV. Her siblings looked up, surprised. Ariyiki's voice was calm, clear, not loud, not angry. "I want to talk about the trip, the one you didn't invite me on." Her mother shifted uncomfortably. Tofunmi tried to joke. "Come on, you were busy being a tech queen." She cut him off gently. "No, let me finish." They listened. All my life I was called too quiet, too sensitive, too boring. When I got good grades, no one clapped. When I stayed home while you celebrated, I smiled like it didn't hurt. But that trip to Seychelles, that was different. It wasn't just about a vacation. It was about knowing that no one even thought to ask if I wanted to go. Her father looked down at his hands. Her sister swallowed hard. Her mother stared at the table. Ariyiki continued, her voice steady. "You didn't think I was fun enough, or interesting, or worthy of being part of your moments. You didn't think I was enough to sit with you at dinner. But strangers flew me across continents to sit at their tables, not for who I pretend to be, but for who I actually am." Her words hung in the air, heavy but calm. There was no yelling, no bitterness, just truth. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. Ariike, we didn't know. I never meant to hurt you. I know, Ariike replied softly. But you did. Her siblings looked at her differently now, not as the quiet one, but as someone who had built something real, someone they had overlooked while searching for sparkle in the wrong places. I'm not saying this to make you feel bad, she added. I'm saying it so you'll understand. I don't need your praise. I just wanted you to see me. Her mother wiped her eyes. We see you now. Ariik nodded slowly. Good. That's enough. Then she stood and walked out to the balcony, letting the breeze touch her face. Inside, no one said another word. The silence wasn't awkward this time. It was full of reflection. She hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't asked for pity. She had spoken her truth. And finally, they had listened. Late one night, Ariiki sat alone by her bedroom window, the soft hum of the city in the background. The moonlight poured gently over her journal as she flipped to a blank page. With a deep breath, she began to write. Her words came slowly, but they were honest. Pain was my beginning, she wrote. Being overlooked forced me to find value in silence. Being forgotten made me build my own name. She paused, thinking back to those nights when she would stay up after everyone slept, buried in books while her siblings partied. She had worked long shifts during university, saving every naira, skipping outings, and eating the same meals for weeks just to afford her final year project. No one had noticed then, but now she saw herself clearly. Every hardship had shaped her strength. She remembered the evenings she cried quietly in the shower, wondering why love in her family always felt earned, not given. And yet, through every tear, she whispered her own name in prayer, asking God to give her a place in the world that would finally feel like home. That place had come, not from luck, but from everything she'd poured into herself when no one else believed. Ariiki closed her journal and smiled faintly. She no longer needed to prove herself, not to her mother, her siblings, or anyone else. They had missed her value because they were looking for something loud, something obvious. But she had always been enough. Her worth was never meant to be loud, it was meant to be steady. Her days had changed. She now worked closely with Mr. Ofori's foundation, helping build programs for girls in underrepresented communities. Each week she mentored young women who reminded her of herself, soft-spoken, overlooked, but brilliant. She taught them how to pitch ideas, how to speak with confidence, and most importantly, how to believe in their voice. One of the girls once asked her, "What made you believe you could do it?" Ariiki had smiled and replied, "Because one day I got tired of waiting for someone else to see me, and I saw myself instead." Her influence was growing, not just through awards or articles, but through impact. She wasn't just successful, she was useful. That night, as she closed her journal and looked out at the stars, Ariike whispered to herself, "You're no longer waiting. You're walking. You're rising." And she meant every word. In a packed conference hall in Nairobi, the energy buzzed with excitement. Banners of the African Tech Women's Summit fluttered across the room, and bright lights shone on the main stage. Among rows of powerful innovators and leaders sat Ariike, calm and graceful in a simple but elegant Ankara dress. Her name had already been whispered across the room, but when the host stepped up and announced, "This year's Emerging Visionary of the Year goes to Ariike Ogunleye," the entire hall erupted in applause. She stood, heart steady, and walked to the stage as cameras flashed and phones recorded. When she reached the microphone, she paused to take it all in, the people, the praise, the power in the room. Then she spoke, not with loudness, but with purpose. "I used to believe being quiet meant being invisible, but now I know. Clarity doesn't shout, it speaks, and people listen." Back home in Nigeria, her family huddled around the TV in stunned silence. Her name flashed across the screen, trending on social media, mentioned by celebrities, praised by thought leaders. Tweets poured in. "Ariike Ogunleye is the future of African tech. Her story is what young girls need to hear." Her siblings stared at the screen. unable to hide their shock. Her mother wiped silent tears. Her father sat still, as if the world had just turned upside down. This time, it wasn't their filtered family vacation photos making the rounds online. It was Ariyike's face, her words, her story. A clip of her speech went viral. Media houses started calling her team. Big companies requested interviews. Global brands reached out with offers to collaborate. Magazines lined up to feature her on their covers. Emails poured in, event invitations, podcast requests, panel seats. Her voice was finally being heard everywhere. Yet Ariyike didn't rush to post about it. She simply sat in her hotel room that night, her award resting quietly beside her laptop, and smiled. She thought of the girl who once sat alone at dinner while laughter echoed from the next room. The girl who studied through hunger, cried in private, and never heard, "We're proud of you." Now the world had spoken louder than her family ever did. But still, there was no bitterness, just peace. She picked up her phone, looked at her mother's missed calls, and let the screen dim. Not out of spite, but out of clarity. For the first time, she wasn't chasing love. She was walking in purpose, and the world was watching, not because she tried to be someone else, but because she had finally been seen as herself. The airport lounge buzzed with quiet elegance. Soft music played, glasses clinked, and voices hummed in conversations filled with ambition and vision. Ariyike stood near the center, confidently dressed in a deep emerald suit that matched the power in her posture. She was no longer the girl waiting to be seen. She was the keynote speaker, the host of a leadership forum for rising African women in tech. Around her, young women she had mentored chatted eagerly, exchanging ideas, sharing dreams. They looked at her not just with admiration, but with hope. To them, Ariyike was proof that quiet voices could echo across continents. She glanced around the space and paused. The same airport lounge, the same city, but everything had changed. Suddenly, she noticed someone step in through the glass doors. Her mother, Mrs. Ogunle, walked slowly, clutching her purse tightly. Her eyes searched the room until they landed on Ariyike. For a moment she hesitated, then moved closer. Ariyike watched her, not coldly, but calmly. "I didn't come to make excuses," her mother said softly. "I came to say, I'm sorry for not seeing you, for not hearing you when you needed us." There was a long pause. Then Ariyike gently replied, "Thank you." Her voice carried no anger, no resentment, just peace. Her mother's eyes welled up, but Ariyike didn't reach for approval. She didn't need to. She had already made peace with her past. Forgiveness wasn't about going backward. It was about moving forward without carrying weight. "I'm proud of you," her mother added. Ariyike gave a small smile. "I know." And with that, she turned back to her guests, gracefully rejoining her circle of mentees. They leaned in as she began to share advice about leadership and vision. Cameras from the event organizers captured the moment as she walked confidently past the first-class boarding gates, not as a forgotten passenger, but as a woman leading a movement. As she walked, her heels clicked on the floor with quiet strength. No more shadows, no more silence. She had reclaimed her voice. She had reclaimed her power, and this time, the world followed her lead.